Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
It is the 30-something movie podcast, and welcome to the farm, everybody.
Hey, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna jump right in. I'm gonna record as saying pigs are not dirty animals, and they're actually very, very smart. I'm just saying.
I know. Okay. Pulling back the curtain before we started recording, I started quoting Pulp Fiction. And
I know
that is not the opinions of Jules do not represent the opinions of the 30-something movie podcast. Just because he doesn't dig on swine. Pigs are filthy animals. I don't eat filthy animals. Sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie, but yes, no, I understand. Pigs are actually my dad grew up on a pig farm, so
there you go.
Yeah, he had his favorite pet. One of his favorite pets growing up was the mother pig that they had, and her name was Pig, P-I-G-G.
There you go.
You know, he loved that pig. Not very creative when it came to naming it, but he loved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you haven't already been able to tell, this episode is for the 1995 family movie Babe, the Pig. We're going to be talking about that movie tonight. We spoil freely here, so be warned. As we mention this movie and other movies, we may spoil something, so just heads up for that. If you haven't been to our website, lately30podcast.com, you can leave us a rating there, leave us a voicemail. You could become a co-executive producer if you head on over to the Patreon page and join us over there. You get bonus episodes if you join us as a paid member there. And thank you so much to the group of people that do contribute to the show. That really, really helps us out. We really appreciate it. And it's a wonderful, just great group of people over there. Just absolutely love getting to know everybody and so thankful for them. So, how's everybody doing? Pat, Bo, how are you? Actually, Farmer Pat and Farmer Bo, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Hanging in there.
Great, man.
Yeah.
Waiting for the snowstorm.
All we need is a co-host named Ted. Then we'd have a Farmer Ted.
Farmer Ted would be pretty cool.
That'd be good. So, all right. Yeah, let's jump on into this one. This one is Babe, came out August 4th, 1995, rated G, with a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes. Directed by Chris Noonan, who did a movie called Miss Potter. No relation to Harry Potter, as far as I know. Writers, this is the one that gets me, the writers on this one. Chris Noonan was also one of the writers. He did a movie called The Cowra Breakout and The Riddle of the Stinson. The other writer for this one is George Miller. Do you guys know the name George Miller and other things he might have done?
It feels like I should, but I think I'm going to have to plead ignorance on this one.
This is the original director, creator of the Mad Max series of movies.
There it is.
That George Miller. So what I think is hilarious is I look at him being the writer and one of the producers of this, and I think, George Miller did both Mad Max and Babe. That's a spectrum if ever there was one.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy that. That's trivia that just makes me smile.
that it's
Yeah. So
it's interesting when you get those guys that they write the extremes. I mean, I think well, related or unrelated, the guy that wrote the James Bond books.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? Ian Fleming.
Ian Fleming, yep.
Yeah, I want to say Ian Fleming wrote that, and as he said, his stories were for like red-blooded men, not boys. Was his statement or of some sorts? But he wrote that, and he wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting when you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang thing. Good call.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the other producers for this one were Bill Miller, who did Dead Calm and Lorenzo's Oil, one that we did just a couple years ago. Doug Mitchell was another producer. He did the Witches of Eastwick. Composer was Nigel Westlake, who did Miss Potter and Paper Planes. Cinematographer was Andrew Lesney, who did the Lord of the Rings trilogy and King Kong, the 2005 version. Editors were Marcus Darcy, who did Lorenzo's Oil and Happy Feet, and Jay Friedkin, who did The Big Easy and The Good Son. Production company was Kennedy Miller Productions, $30 million budget. Box office was $254.1 million, so it did just fine. You know what? That'll do, Pig.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do. You could say that Babe really brought home the bacon.
Oh, geez, here they go.
Brought home the bacon.
You can keep saying it. It didn't get funnier.
I will.
Jeez.
Oh. It's like lipstick on a pig, Bo. It's if I just say it in a slightly different way. Put some different emphasis on different syllables.
I bow to your genius on that one right there. That's fair.
Thank you. Try not to go hog wild. Cinema Score did not have a score for this one, much like the score they have for my jokes. Flickmetrics gave it a 75. Actors in this one, James Cromwell played Farmer Arthur Hoggett. He was in L.A. Confidential, The Green Mile, and Star Trek First Contact. Magda Subansky played Esme Hoggett. She was in Happy Feet and Kath and Kim Dorella. Christine Cavanaugh played the voice of Babe in Dexter's Laboratory, the TV series, and the Rugrats movie. Miriam Margolyes played Fly, the voice of Fly. She's in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and the Age of Innocence. Hugo Weaving played the voice of Rex. He was in the Matrix series and Lord of the Rings trilogy. I, at some point, would loved if Rex had just gone, Farmer Hoggett. It's the smell, if there is such a thing. This farm, I hate it. I would have loved it.
That would have been very good.
Danny Mann played Ferdinand, the crazy duck. He was in Monsters, Inc. and Up. Miriam Flynn did the voice of Ma. She was in National Lampoon's Vacation, the series, The Land Before Time. Russie Taylor played the voice of Duchess. She was in The Simpsons, DuckTales, the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. Roscoe Lee Brown played the voice of the narrator. He was in The Cowboys and Logan's Run. Paul Goddard played the Hoggett's son-in-law. He was in The Matrix and the Farscape TV series. Zoe Burton was the Hoggett's daughter. She was in Muriel's Wedding. And Wade Hayward played the Hoggett's grandson. He was in The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So a couple things about this movie. To portray Babe the Pig, the breed of Babe was the large white breed, and apparently they age and grow rapidly. So they needed 46 different piglets to play Babe.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a lot of holy moly.
That's a lot of, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. So, yeah, tons of little piggies. The film was shot in Robertson, New South Wales, Australia, and they used a combination of real animals and some animatronic puppets to bring all this to life. James Cromwell, who played Farmer Hoggett, almost passed on this movie, but a friend convinced him to do it, and he had only 16 lines of dialogue in the film. So, a man of few words.
Mm.
And I believe I did read somewhere that his fee for being in this movie was only $50,000. And then he tried to, when the movie was becoming very successful, he tried to renegotiate, and they would not renegotiate with him.
Funny how that works.
But apparently he wasn't too sore about that because he said, you know what, whatever. After this movie, I didn't have to audition for anything ever again.
Fair.
So.
Yeah.
And then he also said, influenced by the themes of the movie, he became an ethical vegetarian after filming this movie. So it was something he said that, maybe he didn't get the pay he would have wanted for this movie, but he was now a household name. It's a household name.
It's a household name.
Thank you. Yeah. And so at that point, he was well known enough. He didn't have to audition anymore, and he said that it really, changed his life because he became a vegetarian, and that just made a profound difference in his life.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Let's see. Babe was the first Australian film to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. Which is kind of the funny story because I remember when my family went to go see this, we loved this movie. Like, it was one of our favorite movies this entire year when we saw it in the theater. We absolutely loved this movie. And so one of the earliest times, I don't remember watching the Oscars too much growing up as a kid, but I do remember, and we must have been traveling somewhere because we were in a hotel when the Oscars was airing it would have been early, like February or so, 1996. And we were watching the Oscars, and it got to the point where they were announcing Best Picture, and my entire family was like, it's got to be Babe. It's got to be Babe. Babe has to win. It was an amazing movie. It's got to win. And then they announced this movie I'd never heard of before called Braveheart, and I'm like, that's stupid. That's stupid. I hate this. I don't know what this Braveheart movie is, but I hate this movie. Babe should have won. And then I think like a year or two later, I watched Braveheart. I'm like, oh, no, that's okay.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
And now you're,
Yeah.
You might as well be William Wallace.
That'll do, lad. Yeah. That'll do, Mel. That'll do. So, yes, I changed my mind once I finally got a chance to watch Braveheart. I still love the movie, Babe, but definitely changed my mind once I saw Braveheart.
Yeah.
In a world where pigs are meant for the dinner table, one piglet, named Babe, dares to dream. With the guidance of Farmer Hoggett and the nurturing of a border collie named Fly, Babe embarks on an extraordinary journey to become a champion sheepdog. Against all odds, in a farmyard where rules are strict and traditions run deep, this little pig will inspire a revolution. Because 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
I ram you.
Thank you. All right, Babe arrives at Hoggett Farm after winning a piglet in a Guess the Weight contest at a county fair and getting peed on. Farmer Hoggett brings Babe home to his farm. The orphaned piglet is taken in by the gentle border collie Fly and her no-nonsense mate Rex. Babe quickly bonds with Fly's puppies and befriends a mischievous duck named Ferdinand, who crows like a rooster to prove his usefulness and avoid being eaten. I will say the one part I did skip over is the movie starts off on a pretty ominous note because you're immediately taken into where the pigs are being raised and then the mother taken away from the babies, and he's left to sit there and say goodbye to his mother, not knowing where she's going. And the beginning of this movie is sad and rough.
And they scare you a few times.
Yeah.
Early on.
They don't shy away from that.
No, they definitely wanted you to think that the bacon was on the menu.
Yes.
Pork is back on the menu, boys. Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like I vaguely remembered that, but it just and even watching it as an adult, I'm wondering what I thought of this as a kid, because watching it as an adult and watching that I didn't remember that being the beginning of the movie. I was like, dang, that's rough.
That's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's still, still a rated G kids movie, so it's not. They're not saying anything that's incorrect, but you're definitely not pulling any punches here. Like, you're not hiding anything,
right?
But it also does establish what the stakes are for him. I'm sorry, I should have said stakes. Establishes what that one I didn't even mean.
They just come out. It just happens.
Yeah, man, it's totally going to sound like I'm trying to make stupid food and farm and animal puns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I say anything without mentioning food?
Of course you can. It's a challenge, but it can be done.
Okay. All right. We'll give it a try. When the Hoggett's relatives visit for Christmas, Arthur initially considers Babe for the holiday meal, but decides against it, telling Esme that Babe may be worth more as a prize-winning pig. However, Ferdinand's love interest, Rosanna the duck, is served instead. Man, that's
Jeez.
Shed a tear for Rosanna.
Yeah, a moment of silence for Rosanna. All right. Devastated, Ferdinand realizes that being useful is no guarantee of safety and decides to call foul and escape the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. It was another. You know what? Fine.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the...
Okay, I think we can do this. I think we can.
I think we can too.
I think it's possible. I mean, maybe. Okay, continuing on.
I'm not sure what happened. John, what happened? Did you become emotional with the content or?
No, I just realized I can't talk without mentioning food.
Or bad puns.
Or stupid puns. Yeah.
But go with it. Lean into it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I will not let this podcast get my goat.
No.
I will not sheepishly shy away from the attempt to talk through the rest of this movie, and by God, I'm going to get back up on that horse, and we're just going to make it happen.
Noted.
Nobody's like a Marty McFly. Nobody's going to call me chicken.
Ah.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's enough. Okay. While exploring the fields, Babe witnesses two thieves attempting to steal the farm's sheep. He quickly alerts Fly and Farmer Hoggett, successfully stopping the rustlers from taking the entire flock. This act of bravery earns Babe more trust from Hoggett, who starts seeing him as more than just a pig. After observing Babe separate the hens by color, Hoggett is impressed and decides to test him as a sheep herder. Everybody else thinks he's pretty crazy, but with guidance from an elderly ewe named Ma, Babe succeeds by politely asking the sheep to cooperate instead of intimidating them. However, Rex views this as an insult to traditional sheepdogs and lashes out. He attacks Fly when she defends Babe, injures Hoggett's hand, and is subsequently chained up and sedated. One morning, a pack of feral dogs attacks the sheep, and though Babe bravely intervenes, Ma is mortally wounded. Hoggett, arriving after the attack, assumes Babe is the culprit and prepares to shoot him. Just in time, Fly learns the truth from the surviving sheep and stops Hoggett, who is then informed by Esme about similar attacks happening on nearby farms. Realizing his mistake, Hoggett begins to trust Babe completely. I will back up just a second and say there was an earlier moment where Babe tries to intimidate the sheep, goes to bite one of the sheep, and the sheep, he apologizes later, and the sheep basically comes back and says, "Do you actually have any teeth in that mouth of yours?" And so
I wouldn't quite call it a bite, right, but
yeah. So fast forward to this sheep being, this gash in the throat kind of thing with this other sheep. This is probably just, I don't know, a day later, a few days later.
Mm-hmm.
And Farmer Hoggett assumes that Babe the piglet did this?
Yeah, does he not understand that the thing doesn't have teeth?
Right. Like, does he not... He's a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he should... I think he had a little too much ooby-dooby is what I think happened.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
No, I suppose he does say at the beginning he doesn't keep pigs.
I mean, that's true, but he keeps other animals that have teeth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
If you're asking for Farmer Hoggett to make sense, I don't know.
I was asking for a little bit of logic, but that's okay.
Ooh.
We don't have to.
Hey, you might be pushing it there. That's all I'm saying.
That's okay. That's okay. I was trying to bite off more than I could chew.
Mhm.
With Esme away on a trip, Hoggett registers Babe for a prestigious sheep herding competition. On the night before the event, he allows Babe and Fly to stay inside due to the rain. Duchess, the Hoggett's cat, feeling resentful, scratches Babe and is temporarily put outside. When she returns, she cruelly tells Babe the truth that humans eat pigs. Devastated, Babe runs away from the farm. Rex, who has begun to respect Babe, tracks him down in a cemetery the next morning. Hoggett finds the distraught pig and gently brings him home. Babe is overwhelmed by sadness and refuses to eat. In an emotional moment, Hoggett comforts him by feeding him from a baby bottle, singing If I Had Words, and performing a small dance, restoring Babe's faith in their bond. Which roughly seems like some of the same dance moves he may have used in Star Trek First Contact.
Yeah.
Again, to the ooby dooby of it all.
To the ooby dooby, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you were to take that scene of him dancing in Babe and put the audio of ooby dooby up against it, does it look like it would fit?
Did it work?
I'm curious now. Somebody on YouTube has to have done that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go look for that now. Babe and Hoggett arrive at the sheep herding competition, where Babe is met with ridicule. And much like Carrie, they're all going to laugh at him. Ooh, that's not a good idea to mix those two movies together, because pigs don't end well in Carrie either. Because she gets a bucket of pig's blood dumped on her. Okay, that was unintentional, but yeah. Okay. The judges and spectators laugh at the sight of a pig competing instead of a dog. When Babe tries to communicate with the sheep, they refuse to acknowledge him. Seeing this, Rex races back to the farm to ask the home sheep for help. At the farm, Rex promises the sheep that he will treat them with more respect if they help Babe. They agree and they share a secret password. So little did we know that sheep all have a secret password, which he rushes back to deliver to Babe just in time. When Babe repeats the password to the competition sheep, they then show him a picture and ask him, click all the ones that have motorcycles. And he gets one of them wrong, so he has to start over, and it's this whole big thing. And then he has to get a text to his phone, which then gives him a code that he has to put in, and it's just it's ridiculous.
RMU.
Right. It's I believe it's called multi-farmer authentication. Is what that
multi-hoggeted authentication.
Multi-hoggeted authentication. Yes. Yes. So we learned that Babe is not a robot. And he does eventually pass the test. And then they immediately obey his commands, moving in perfect unison. The crowd falls completely silent, which is an awesome scene, as they just watch the astonishing display of this pig leading these sheep around. A perfect score is given as the audience erupts into applause. Babe receives that perfect score from the judges all around. With the competition won, Babe sits down beside Hoggett, who simply looks at him and says, what I think we're all just hoping to hear someday is, that'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do.
The moment cements their deep connection. Babe's journey from an ordinary pig to an extraordinary sheepdog is complete, and the movie comes to an end. And now it's time for Deep Thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot. Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
All right. When was the first time you remember seeing this movie?
I'm going to guess right about when it came out. Probably not in the theater, but probably, Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. First time watch for me.
Really?
I've heard of the movie, but I had not seen it, and that's pretty much it.
Very cool. Yeah, we watched it in the movie theater. I don't remember. I would imagine because at that point in time, my siblings I would have been about 14. Then my siblings would have been 11 and 5. at the time, 6 at the time. So obviously the 6-year-old and the 11-year-old, they were very interested in seeing this. And I think it was, at this point I wasn't, I would have been 8th grade, freshman year. I wasn't too cool to go to the movie theater with my family and see a movie. And I think the entire family ended up loving this movie when we saw it in the theater. And I think pretty quickly when it came out on video, I'm pretty sure we bought a copy of it. So yeah, have seen this many times over the years. And then when the kids were little, we would have watched it again with them too. In fact, Sharon, we were talking about this because we watched it together the other night, and I don't remember going, so it might have been, I don't know if it might have been time where I was at work, but she remembered that there was a time where the movie theater, I think in Libertyville, was showing some inexpensive kids movies. And she recalls taking at least John to go see it when he was little. So
cool.
He would have seen it in the movie theater for that. I don't remember going to see it in the theater recently, like in the last 15 years. But it sounds like she might have gone at that point. So I'm not sure if I went to that or not. Maybe I just didn't remember it. But yeah. So I've saw this movie when it came out. Seen this many times since then. And it's just such a fun, innocent movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find no faults with this movie whatsoever. I can't tell you anything wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pat, I would be curious to hear this first time you're watching it as an adult. What's your take on it? Did you watch it with the kids at all, or?
Didn't, but I think Dominic would enjoy it. I mean, it's not quite. Well, first of all, we're big animal lovers in this family.
Yeah.
Dominic, and then as far as movies go, Dominic is big into Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Jurassic everything. All the kaiju movies, all the Godzilla, Titanverse,
Just tell him just tell him this one is called Jurassic Babe.
I'm afraid he might Google that, and I can't even imagine what would come up if you'd Google that.
But it could be like a Pacific Rim, Pacific Pig. I don't know.
Yeah.
Babe versus Kong. I don't know. Pick one.
Babe versus Kong. I like it. No, but I think the kids would really like it. I really do, and I know Daniela would. I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed the messaging in it. I enjoyed the story. I enjoy the whole let's do something different and be judged and then suddenly shut everybody up because, the pig can move the sheep around.
Right.
Hey, I'm a sucker for that kind of story. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I enjoyed the whole thing. I really did.
Yeah. Bo, what about you? You said you saw this around the time it came out. Did you?
Yeah, I loved it then. Enjoyed it now. It's cute. It's fun. It's everything we've said. It's heartwarming. It who doesn't like a cute little talking pig?
Yeah, and there's so many, just rewatching it again, because it had been a few years since I'd seen it. I mean, there were so many things that I remembered from watching it before, and just the characters, it is a fun, very, G-rated family movie, but it's just that the characters are so, I don't know, it's like revisiting a favorite children's book. Like
exactly.
Even as an adult, when you go back to like a favorite children's book, when I was a little kid, I loved the was it one of the little golden books called The Pokey Little Puppy?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to love that book as a kid. And then when our kids were little, that was one that I still, either I had my original copy of it or we had a copy of it, and I would read that to them when they were little. I still loved it. Right. That's kind of what this movie feels like to me. Having watched it when it came out, having watched it several times over the years, it's not something that I look at and I go, I've outgrown that. Like I'm not a kid anymore, so that doesn't interest me. It is. It's like revisiting, and I mean, it was based on a book, children's book, but coming back to it, it's like it feels comfortable. Like it's like a warm blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Pigs in a blanket. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I had to.
Yeah.
It's a compulsion. Like I don't think I could.
Just couldn't resist.
I don't think I can.
Mm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, so many of these guys, like Ferdinand the Duck. Ferdinand the Duck shows up, and I remembered as a kid just thinking Ferdinand was hilarious, and like his whole thing of wanting to be the rooster, and getting up before the rooster every morning. I mean, frankly, the rooster just needs to get an alarm clock. Then, if he can't get up before the duck does,
Right. Like, does he have no self-respect?
it sounds like a personal problem.
I think so. I think he's staying up too late watching movies or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's staying up too late recording a podcast.
Could be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Lord knows that can happen.
Yes. Sometimes. Yeah.
I like it that they go to great pains to, when they meet the cat, this cat was not nice and all this. Now, that's not to say all cats are not nice, but this one in particular was not a nice cat. I thought that was fun.
Right. Well, I love the message of the movie is that Babe never assumes when somebody says something to him about someone else, he kind of trusts them at first. He's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that, but okay. And then maybe he makes a little mistake, but then after like the time that he, bites the sheep, but then pretty quickly he realizes, oh, wow, I made a mistake. I made an assumption and I'm sorry. And he immediately apologizes. And then the narrator basically tells us each time, and from that day on, Babe never did that ever again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, that's a great message. Why doesn't everybody just watch this movie right now?
I was going to say there are people who could learn that lesson.
Right. Yeah. It felt very encouraging to watch this movie without making this something social, political, whatever. It felt very comforting to watch this movie. And to get a message of don't make assumptions based on what you hear from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Treat, get to know people. Treat people the way everyone deserves to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And move on with your life.
Yeah.
And don't be a jerk.
Ding.
Jerk.
The other than Farmer Hoggett, the rest of these humans are kind of ridiculous people.
Yeah.
Like his wife is kind of a cartoon character, and she crazy.
The faces she makes.
Oh yeah.
When she realizes it's him at the competition, I
give that woman's I can't even say it. Facial muscles an Oscar because
how about it?
She made a lot of different faces that like her. Even if she didn't say anything, like her face was probably one of the most expressive I've ever seen.
I was just going to say, very expressive.
Yeah.
Most expressive.
Most expressive. Yeah, that and the kids and the grandkids, like when they come over and the super obnoxious grandkids.
Yeah, they were definitely going for like, obnoxious grandchildren straight out of Central Casting. They wanted it to be as insane as possible, probably to make Farmer Hoggett look even more stoic and sedate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's like, who can we pull? Like, what type of child can we pull from the Willy Wonka Rogues Gallery and have them drop in and be in this movie?
Right.
This is not the dollhouse I wanted. I wanted the other one.
Yeah.
I want an Oompa Loompa now.
I want a different dollhouse now. To which, and I try not to be heartless, but to which my response would be, oh, well, you know what? Then you get no dollhouse.
Right.
Oh.
I don't know what a dollhouse is.
I didn't want this dollhouse. Oh, okay. I'll take it and put it. I'll give it to the Goodwill store, and then maybe a person who is a little bit more grateful will get it.
Yeah.
Allow me to retort.
There you go. We'll pull it back to Pulp Fiction.
Your British accent, kids being stoppy, totally made me think of that Greatest Gen when they make fun of when all the Picard and Guinan become the young people.
Uh-huh.
And I want it now. The Harry and they play the Harry Potter theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I want a fax machine now.
That's right. You can write us a letter and send it through the computer. Wasn't that what it said?
Yes.
What she said?
So this was one of the fourth of the three questions that I was going to ask. Did you ever, growing up, have a fax machine in your house? And do you recall ever using one at home? Not at work, so I'm not counting work. Did you ever have one at home?
No.
No? Okay.
Tammy might have. Her dad ran a business, had his own business that he ran out of I say out of the basement, but he had a printing business in their house.
Okay.
So he might have had, and Tammy's dad was very, very savvy with like new technologies and all that kind of stuff. And all the way up until the end. But I would imagine, I should ask her tomorrow. I wonder, I bet you he did have a fax machine.
I'm wondering, I don't think we ever did, but I think my grandfather might have.
Okay.
He had a consulting business after he retired. And it would have been just on the bleeding edge of whether he would have had one in the house. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. In the house, no, I never had one.
Okay. We did. Like my dad he was always working for tech companies. You know, when I was really little, he worked for Texas Instruments. He was always somewhere on the, not necessarily like high up, but he was always somewhere kind of like in the executive group of a lot of different tech companies and stuff like that. And so I remember having one. I don't recall if it was as early as the early 90s when we were living in England, but I do know that when we came back and we lived in Southwest Missouri for a while, I know for a fact we had one because that's the first time I ever used one. We lived in a little teeny tiny town called Cassville, Missouri for about a year, and that was about an hour-ish away from Springfield, Missouri. And so the closest shopping that you could do, like in terms of a mall or things like that, was going to be in Springfield. Like closest movie theater was in Springfield, closest mall was in Springfield. So for a kid who loved his comic books, there was no comic book store in Cassville, Missouri. Now, if you could find some direct edition comics on a spindle rack at the Piggly Wiggly, good for you.
The pig, shopping the pig.
There we go. See, we brought in the pigs again. So if you could find them there, great. But mostly that was probably going to be like Archie comics or something else. Mm-hmm. If you were, little, 12, 13-year-old John, and you still needed to get your Batman, Superman, X-Men, whatever fix, the closest comic book store was going to be in Springfield, Missouri, about an hour away. Mm-hmm. And you were likely to only get there maybe couple times a month-ish. Mm-hmm. And so what I discovered was there was a place in Springfield, I believe it was called Empire Comics, and I found out after going there one time that dude had a fax machine.
Yeah.
And I had a fax machine. So once a week, I'd get my big catalog of the comics or once a month, I'd get my big catalog of the comics that were going to be coming out soon. And I'd sift through that thing, and I'd make a list of all the. Basically, it was the nerd version of the Sears catalog. I would go through and I'd circle the comics I wanted, and then I would either type it out or write it out, and I would fax the guy at his comic book store in Springfield, Missouri, and I'd say, "Hey, can you hold these for me? I'll be there in a couple weeks, and I'll pick them all up at that point." So the first time I ever used a fax machine was to fax my comic book order to the comic book store in Springfield, Missouri, so I could get some comics put on hold.
That is so you.
I think that's peak nerd and peak 90s.
Yeah.
And the guy was pretty cool with it. He's like, yeah, sure.
Oh, he's totally fine. Yeah, he'd get people all the time, like faxing him orders. And
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's, I think about that entire situation, and I'm like, that's That may be the most 90s phrase I've said on the podcast so far.
Yeah, it's possible.
John faxed his comic book order to the comic book store. Yeah. And was purchasing X-Men and Superman and Batman and yeah. No. But yeah, overall, I love this movie. It's such a great movie. Love all the different little scenes in it. Love the lessons that come along with it. You don't have to be a kid. I don't think you have to be any certain age to enjoy this movie. Because my wife and we were watching it the other night, just the two of us. Like, no kids were there. We were having just as good of a time if kids were watching with us. And all the things about this movie that I loved, I still loved watching it this time around. The cinematography, like the filming of this, is beautiful. Like, the scenery is beautiful. The coloring of this movie is beautiful. There's sometimes I can't always look at a movie and tell, but there's certain times where I look at a movie and there's something about it, like, this was filmed somewhere other than America. Like, there's certain times I'll watch a movie, I'll be like, this is different from all other movies that have come out, and I can't quite tell why, but there's something slightly different about it. And then come to find out, oh, this was an Australian production, this was an Irish production, this was a whatever. And that's not to knock American film, but there's just sometimes certain things about certain movies that you can look at it and go, there's just something slightly different about this. And had it been more of an American production, I don't know what that would have meant for it. I don't know if the messaging would have been slightly different, if it would have been, I don't know, do all the different, like, lobbyists get involved? And, hey, we shouldn't do those scenes at the beginning of the movie where it shows what happens to his mom.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's just, I don't know. There's something I always appreciate about movies that, they're able to tell they're able to get their message across in some particular way and I think this movie does that really well. It gets its message across. It doesn't pull its punches, but it's also not preachy. This movie basically just lives its life, and it does so well doing it that you can't help but be like, I like this.
Well, I think it sets an example.
Yeah.
The movie is like, yeah, exactly. It sets an example.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that we want to say about Babe before we move into our 3 questions? Before we move everyone into the 3-question pen.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do. All right. It's time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right. Question number 1. We're going to play 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. No, that's not true. Question number 1. Who would you rather hang out with, Farmer Hoggett or Zephram Cochrane?
Oh, Zeph for sure.
Yeah?
I mean, some movie doobie and some tequila sound pretty good to me.
Okay. You're not worried, like, you'd get into, like, a bar fight with him and he'd shove you into the warp silo or something?
I suppose that's a possibility.
Okay.
But, I mean, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm also picking Zephram Cochrane just because I don't know. I mean, I feel like if I just wanted to have a quiet afternoon, sure, hang out with Farmer Hoggett, but I don't feel like there's going to be a lot of conversation. And if I'm hanging out, I might like a little bit of conversation.
Yeah, what did you say? 18 lines or something?
16, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So not because there's anything wrong with Farmer Hoggett, but I think if you're going to hang out with somebody, Zephram Cochrane might be a little bit more fun. But
Agreed.
Granted, if it's been a bad week, then maybe I'd just rather escape to a farm and not talk to anybody.
Mm.
So. Pat, what about you? Who are you hanging out with?
This is a hard one. I hear what you're saying about Zephram Cochrane. I hear what you're saying about Farmer Hoggett. And I don't know. Maybe because of the week, I'm going to go with Zephram or Farmer Hoggett.
Okay.
But Zephram Cochrane, I mean, you're exploring the universe, I don't know about the universe, maybe outer space. You're making first contact. It's very much going out there and active out there and all that. Farmer Hoggett, it's kind of, dare I say, the simple life. I mean, you're just kind of doing your work and getting through the day, and there's an appeal to that too. So it might be recency bias, but I think at this point in time, I think I'm going to say Farmer Hoggett. Just let me just do my job. Don't need to necessarily talk to anybody. And yeah, I think we'll go with that. But there might come a time. Well, there would be a time when I'd say, hey, definitely Zephram Cochrane. So it's a tricky question, that one.
Well, follow-up related question. Apparently, I looked it up. The truck that he drives in Babe is a 1948 Morris Commercial LC3. So follow-up question, would you rather ride around with him in a 1948 Morris Commercial LC3 or the Phoenix?
Well, both would probably present their dangers.
That's true.
So that one's going to take me more time to figure out.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go Phoenix. I think that would be fun.
I think it'd be pretty cool, but I don't know. I get kind of motion sick. I might have to stick with the truck.
That's true too. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just wondering why he listened to Magic Carpet Ride, which is a great tune. Mm-hmm. But then for the rest of the movie, it was always Ooby Dooby Dooby, which, not going to say anything against it, but it's not Magic Carpet Ride.
It's true. I mean, it's after World War III, so maybe there's a very limited amount of music that's available.
Yeah.
The jukebox is stuck on Ooby Dooby. He doesn't have a choice.
That's true. That may be the only thing. Much like my old car that had the Jimmy Buffett Feeding Frenzy tape stuck in the tape deck, so that's all I could listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe that's why. Maybe he didn't really like Ooby Dooby. Maybe that's just all he had.
And after some tequila, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. It could sound like anything. Yeah. Oh, these are the questions that will haunt us. Question number 2. If you were a farmer, what would your farm specialize in? My initial answer was misunderstood by my wife. I said puppies, and she said, that's called a puppy mill, and those aren't good. I said, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I mean that it would be a farm that raises puppies, and I'm not saying the farm is going to make any money. I'm just saying it's a farm filled with puppies. And maybe this is the farm upstate where older dogs go to live out the rest of their lives. Maybe that's my farm. Maybe my farm doesn't produce anything. Maybe my farm performs a service. So I'm going to say puppies because I feel like if I tried to grow anything, I would fail miserably.
Mm-hmm.
There was a joke we were talking about earlier. There's a joke from an episode of Mad About You where they leave New York and they go like out to the country somewhere. I don't know if it's upstate New York or where it is that they go, but they love how quiet and calm it is, and so they get this like idea like we should be farmers. and they're like, we don't, I can't get up early in the morning. Like, what am I going to farm? And I think Paul Reiser, I think, makes some comment and says something like, well, I hear corn is one of your lazier vegetables.
Funny, because I was going to say corn.
Oh, well, there you go.
Just because it seems easier. I don't know.
I don't think corn gets up before 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that's good, because I don't either.
There you go. Decision made.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. I guess I'm going with corn because it's all I got, but...
No answer I give is going to be financially successful. I played Sim Farm back in the day. I was not good.
Yeah, me neither.
So, Patrick, what's your farm specialize in?
Well, I would have to be the idea man and hire people to be the expert.
What does the Canagallo Stone Ranch grow?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned animals, so yeah. I mean, if I say horses, wouldn't that be a ranch? So is that within the spirit of the question, or are we talking about like plants?
It would. I'd give that to you. Yeah, you could do a ranch.
I mean,
it's in the spirit of the question.
I mean, I would definitely have a ranch, and let's be honest, right? We've all known people. We have all have friends that like worked on or owned farms or whatever. Like, so I mean, that's probably one of the hardest jobs out there with the most amount of stress because, like, you know, you spend a lot of money, you don't make a lot of money. You have to deal with the crop and the weather and, you know, the futures market and price of things and competition and potential trade war and tariffs and all this other kind of stuff can adversely affect everything. So I'm not going to totally take all the fun out of the question, but like, I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there that that's real easy to say, but like, my gosh, I just couldn't even imagine trying to run a ranch or a farm or any of that kind of stuff. But that being said, it would definitely have to be vegetables.
Okay.
And everything, you know, tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, pepper, you know, corn, definitely. We definitely have to be getting like mushrooms too. My gosh, I love mushrooms. And no one start the jokes about the, you know, whatever the hallucinogen and all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about like, you know, mushrooms that you eat and not get high on and all that kind of stuff. But so it would definitely have to be like a vegetable farm and all that. Probably have a farm stand, but then a farm, like a garden to table restaurant. Okay. And then probably like a bakery with all sorts of, you know, good things in there. And I've got a very good friend that is working to start. And what was that?
Nothing.
Okay. And I heard it. I just heard it. I just heard it.
We got completely derailed by that scene when we were watching the movie the other day.
Yeah, I was going to say. But it would be you know, and I would love to have like a bakery as part of that, and then like one whole half, like one huge section would be like an arena, trails, and just places for riding horses. And I think that would be, I just think that would be awesome. Maybe even a spot where you could go out and like really try your hand at like reining and doing some ranching or all that, you know, just learn to ride horses and just good for the soul, good for the mind, trails to hike and run on, good food. Yeah. Like, I think that would be my ideal.
So Pat, you actually took us down a little bit of a Kevin Bacon type rabbit hole here. Bacon, I know. Because
you keep saying it.
I know. Because you asked if this would fit the spirit of the question if you were to do a horse ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And not only would that fit the spirit of the question, but there's also the horse animated movie called Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
Yes,
which I'm
Spirit
sure
of the
you've
Way
seen.
has a horse in it.
Which I'm sure you've seen. The voice talents of one Matt Damon, but also, do you know who also
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But you know whose voice is also featured in the movie Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron?
James Cromwell.
James Cromwell's
because
in there too.
he's the colonel.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it all comes full circle.
And I got to be honest, I want to say that Howard Stern, I know not everybody is here as a fan, but I know Howard Stern, they always would do some kind of like, you know, those interviews, and now YouTube people take it like way too far, but like where they try to ambush you and ask you silly questions and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I want to say his was a little bit more benign than what you see now. But he always said like they tried to do that with James Cromwell and just asked him these outlandish questions.
Yeah.
And James Cromwell I got to look up the segment. I'm sure it's somewhere. But they said James Cromwell was just like totally chill about everything. Like you couldn't face him. You'd ask him a question, it would be somebody, he'd just be like, oh, well, let me answer the question to you.
Yeah.
And Howard was like, man, he's just like such a cool guy. And it's like, and they're like, well, do you think he got there? Yeah, I think he just got it, but he just rolled with everything. Like, yeah, and that's, you know, you can't get a rise out of him. He doesn't give a rise. He just, you know, yeah, they said he's just a really genuinely nice guy. And
anytime
he is Farmer Hoggett.
Right.
Yeah.
I think anytime I've ever seen, I haven't seen too many interviews with him, but anytime I've ever seen interviews with him where he is himself, like not playing a character, or when he's playing a character, I feel like he comes across as being unflappable.
Yeah. And I might be wrong, but I think there's some activist stuff that he's involved in too, that like, I might be way off on this phone. So I'm going to look that up, but I think, and he's got some, well, like you even mentioned here, like, hey, he decided to become vegetarian after doing this movie because, I can't be this and then promote this, you know? So. Yeah,
because I was reading up, one of the trivia pieces was that after he became a vegetarian, I believe one of the stories was he provided some kind of a vegetarian Christmas dinner to homeless folks.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere. I remember reading that in one of the trivia pieces, but I don't remember exactly where it was or when it was. But yeah, so no, I think he is genuinely I think has some activist things that he does, like some different different projects he's got going.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously cool. Zephram Cochrane, but he was a frequent bit part character on Star Trek.
Yeah, I think he was in TNG and Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. Potentially Voyager. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And, he would sometimes in Loaf, sometimes not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was going to ask a question and I can't remember what it was, so it must not be that important. Right. But, impressive guy. And I love what he brings to the movie. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Who was his character in LA Confidential?
Oh yeah,
Captain something,
somebody or other.
Yeah,
he'd be a fun guy to hang out with. I mean, you wouldn't want to double cross him. You wouldn't want to go in too deep and find out what he's into. But just hanging out with him, it wouldn't be too bad.
Character's name is Dudley Smith.
Captain Dudley Smith.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
It's on one of the streaming things because I saw it up there and I was like, the other night, I was like, oh man, it's been forever since I've seen this movie.
There's a possibility I'd have to look. There's a possibility I have a DVD copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on, it looks like it might be on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what I'll watch tonight. I just watched it the other night and it's just amazing.
Well, maybe if they call school off tomorrow, you'll have more time to watch it.
Indeed.
Maybe.
I mean, not that I'm hoping, but
Hope away.
Well, just
unplug
the internet like you did last week, and allow us to go.
Yeah, there you go. Rebellions are built on hope. All right, question number 3: what is your favorite story with a pig as a protagonist? This is an easy one for me, and then I've got I have a runner-up. I won't mention my runner-up just yet. I'll let everybody else go first. But the easy answer for me is Animal Farm. I love that book.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
You said favorite story, not just movie.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a movie. It's favorite story with a pig as a protagonist.
And you're saying Animal Farm.
Animal Farm is my number one.
Okay. Bo, do you have anything, or did you plus one John's Animal Farm?
I think I might have to not plus one. I might have to say this movie.
Okay.
But definitely. Yeah, that's tough. It's funny. There's one in Spirited Away. But yeah, I think I would have to say Animal Farm or Babe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you about to say Animal House? Because that would have been great, too.
I was about to say 1984, but,
Yeah.
That's a different deal.
Yeah. I mean, there's the magic pig in Black Cauldron.
That's true.
And when?
Yeah.
That is true.
There's Lord of the Flies.
That's true. Oh, Piggy. We hardly knew you.
Never got the point of that book at the end.
Well, some people got the point.
Uh-huh. I think my answer is going to be The Muppets Take Manhattan.
Oh, I'm so happy that was yours, because that was my follow-up one.
That's perfect.
Muppets Take Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was always like, the Muppet movie was excellent. Still is. I mean, I really like all the Muppet movies. There's never, I love the Muppets, but I think that one was my favorite.
So I am a little surprised, slightly surprised, that Charlotte's Web did not get mentioned.
Oh,
it was in the running, but
okay, all right.
I just think
it has been forever since I've read Charlotte's Web.
Yeah. Problem is, now that I was thinking, and now that you've mentioned Muppets Take Manhattan, I'm also like, I just want to go back and watch episodes of The Muppet Show with pigs in space.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially the episode with Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wah, 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 wah.
I don't know
it's
when.
time to get things started.
There you go. I don't know when it's going to come out. I was actually a guest on another podcast with a couple of our other buddies. Jason Colvin was there, and Deaf Dave was there, and we were guests on the Children of the 80s podcast, and they're doing a March Madness style bracket for 70s TV theme songs.
Oh.
And so we had to pit some theme songs up against each other, and I won't say which ones were pitted against each other, or even which ones won as we were going through. But I will say that one of the ones that was almost an instant winner for me was the Muppet theme song.
Okay.
From the Muppet Show.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. But yeah, Animal Farm. But then Muppets Take Manhattan I had written down as my kind of my follow-up one. The old school, I don't even know what year, it would have been in the 80s, like early 80s maybe, but the cartoon version of Charlotte's Web, used to watch that one all the time.
Sure. Definitely deserves a mention.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this one, guys. This one has been Babe the Pig. From what I can recall, before we wrap up, I think we watched it once. I'm not sure that Babe Pig in the City lives up to the original.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I have seen it once because, I don't know, you gotta, I guess.
You're a completist, and we love you for it.
Would you say that you were just rooting around for something to watch?
Oh, Oh, jeez.
It just keeps coming.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
I'm not dignifying that. I got nothing.
I'm not. I can't really explain it. Anyway. Yes. So from what I hear, Babe 2, Electric Boogaloo, Pig in the City is not. Is not. Does not live up to this one.
Well, it's a challenge, you know.
So do with that as you will. I definitely highly recommend this one if you have not seen. The original Babe, 1995, definitely go check this one out. Even if you don't have kids, you don't need kids to enjoy this movie, so definitely go check this one out.
You
don't need kids. Children? We don't need no stinking children. Yeah. It's been a long week.
Yeah.
It's only halfway there.
Yeah.
This is February, which is Kids Month. Our Patreon episode was Balto from 1995, the year that we're covering. Our Patreon short is Captain America Brave New World. We have done Toy Story, Pocahontas, Casper, and Babe. This is the last of our 1995 movies for this month. We are going to finish out here within the next couple of days and give you E.T. the Extraterrestrial from 1982. That's part of our, because this is our 10th anniversary, that is part of our rewatch of movies that we've covered over the course of the last 10 years. And I don't think I mentioned it on any of our other previous recordings. Kind of forgot to, but I know I texted you guys the other night. It was, I believe it was February 9th, 2015, that we all got together at the Mexican restaurant that was way too loud for me to be recording in, and did our first recording. So if you don't like to listen to us eat chips now, you definitely wouldn't have liked listening to us eat tortilla chips at that point.
For those of you that haven't been around as long, the audio was so bad, we re-recorded that episode.
We did.
As our 400th episode, I believe.
I believe it was the 400th, yeah.
The audio was that bad that we decided it needed a redo.
I think I eventually was able to find one of the original files from the night that we recorded that, and with my, I won't say extensive, but with my updated knowledge of how to deal with Adobe Audition and programs like that, I believe I was able to get it cleaned up enough so that you could listen to it, and I think I gave that. I think I put that on our Patreon feed.
Nice.
So I think the original first episode is up on Patreon. If you're one of our Patreon folks over there on the paid access part of Patreon, should be up on there. The very, very original one. But yes, we did go back and re-record the infamous lost episode. Infamous, I'm sorry, is what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than famous.
It's infamous.
Infamous? Infamous?
Infamous?
Wow. The infamous El Guapo. Stop. All right. So just to give you a heads up as well, since this is our last 1995 movie for this month, next month, the month of March, is our Teenagers Month, and we've got some good stuff coming up. I know for a fact that Bo's wife is very excited about the movies that are coming out this next month. So in the month of March, in the merry month of March, our Patreon episode is Real Genius from 1985. Our Patreon short is Angus from 1995. And then our regular episodes in the month of March are Mallrats, Clueless. Our 10th anniversary rewatch is Back to the Future, which I believe, if that's timed right, may be our 575th episode. And then we end the month with Dangerous Minds and Empire Records. So March is a month of bangers.
Indeed.
Yeah. It'll be a fun one. So I am really, really looking forward to that. Yeah, a lot of really good stuff coming up in the month of March. So join us then, won't you? All right.
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some. Bo, Pat, thank you from the very bottom of my heart for putting up with my puns during this recording and not just leaving the recording and leaving me to do this podcast solo. I appreciate that.
We love you, John.
We do, and we appreciate you getting us together and scheduling this romp through 1995.
Yeah.
10 years, almost to the day.
There were moments tonight that I thought I would take something too far, and you guys would just sign off. Frankly, I was sweating like a pig. But
oh man,
I think, and then I thought, what, those guys.
What's impressive, Patrick, is I don't think he writes these. I think they just come to him.
No,
and it's just lodged.
You have a gift, sir. You have a gift.
It's kind of like when you, I don't know. It's kind of like when you when you're snaking out a pipe or something, and just stuff starts to come loose. It's a little bit like that.
Okay.
I got nothing.
Good night,
I'm not
Gracie.
sure how to respond.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. That is the only true response.
I think so. The only true response is what I will leave everybody with, and I will say, everybody, thank you for being here. Be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and you know what? That'll do, pig.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will